Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're going to be talking about how does one balance their spiritual and their material life. And it's good to mention sometimes that this is a viewer's request. Yeah, it's requested by Miss Nikita, who follows this channel advently, and I thought it would be a good idea to record on the day that she asked for it. So yeah, here we go. So, what does it mean to balance your spiritual and your material life? And I would give it a little bit of an astrological touch, since that's what I practice, and that's the expression of my spiritual quests, you can say, and that's how I'm best able to describe a topic within that realm. So, what does it mean to have balance between the two? So, the first thing that we need to do in order to even seek balance, whether it's in this realm or in any other topic as well in your life, is best to not put them against each other. That is, to call one as spirit and call one as being material, because as soon as you do that, you're generally inviting an opposition in astrology, which is quite a hard aspect. It immediately puts your mind into polarity, and then you got to work quite hard. I've done a lot of videos on oppositions. If you'd like to check them out, I'll be doing more as well. So it gets kind of tricky if you start doubting them against each other, if they're at loggerheads with each other. So the best is to try to see is that at what point is there an amalgamation, or at what point is there a certain cycling, rather than saying left versus right. Let's just say that you move the left pedal to a point where the right pedal becomes the most relevant thing in your act of cycling. And the same thing when you're moving your right pedal, and when you push on it long enough, the left becomes the most relevant thing at that moment in time. So that's kind of how I am going to be tackling it today, is about learning the art of cycling through spiritual and the material plane in a way that they both work for you, in a way that your material success does not make you crave or make you feel a lack of spirituality, and the same, that your spiritual conquests don't make you feel like you missed out on any great fun in the material plane, so to speak. So let's kind of dissect it first, so that we can then learn how to put these two together and cycle them. So now, if you're looking at, let's start with spirit, then go to the material. So now, say for example, you're looking at the spiritual realm. Now, generally in the spiritual realm, uh, you are speaking words like satisfaction. You are measuring it in satisfaction. Yeah, in the material realm, you're most likely measuring it in what is used on earth as a way of measurement, and that is money. It's used as a tool to measure your physical degree of abundance, should I say. And in the spiritual realm, the same is measured in satisfaction. That how satisfied you feel is how spiritually content you feel, or how abundant you feel within a certain spectra of life. So, in the spiritual plane, you can say that satisfaction and how it colors a certain area of life is what you would call as being successful. Say, for example, uh, this could work in everything actually, like relationships, work, sleep, and general peace of mind, one would say. So, All you have to do is add the word satisfaction to all these different aspects of life that I mentioned, and anything else that is popping through your mind, which I'm not mentioning right now. So say in the realm of relationships, if you are feeling deeply contented, if you're feeling deeply satisfied, if you're very at ease, at oneness inside of the relationship that you're having with your partner, that you're having with your friends, that you're having with your family, that you're having with your neighborhood, if you feel harmonious and one with it, that means at that time you are experiencing what is called as spiritual abundance pouring through in that aspect of life. Now, just copy paste the same thing onto work. Yeah, like if you're feeling extremely satisfied with the work that you do, and if you're feeling like at ease with, in a way that you're not doing anything that you're not supposed to be, you're just doing what you love, you are in a very beautiful space when you are at work and you really look forward to working, a lot like me, because I am gratefully in that space in terms of work. So then uh, you basically feel abundant. You feel you're extremely rich in that space. Now, the thing is, the word rich is generally just, I would say, misaligned with a certain degree of guilt, certain degree of greed as well. So I am trying to refrain from using it, but it's actually supposed to be used in this context, in this video, so that we break through that barrier as well. That richness just means that you are experiencing something at its higher levels of expression. That is, it's not in its cruder levels, but in its more refined and expressed forms of manifestation. For example, like a seed is a seed of a plant or of a tree is in its cruder form, when it's in seed form, when it's in the flower form, it's in its rich form, it's in an expressed state. So now rich actually just means it's at a state of flowering, it's at a state of expressing with the outside world and coming in contact with the outside world in a way that the outside world is able to see what was so deeply hidden inside of you, and they appreciate the fact that such richness actually prevails within your very stem, within your very plant, within your very tree, within your very trunk, within your very system, or within your very body, or within your very extension of your body in the material plane, your bank account, if you would like to call it that way. So when you say you're rich, you need to start looking at spiritual and material planes and be able to intertwine and switch this word, because this word would really help you to break through a lot of things. If you feel rich, like I truly feel rich in the realm of the work that I do with my music and with whatever I'm here on earth for, with the iTicket office that I work with to help creative entrepreneurs. And it's basically just stemmed out of what I kind of invested in the spirit realm in terms of finding satisfaction in what I want to do, in terms of finding peace of mind in what I want to do and passion in what I want to do. So I feel truly rich in this space, and you do as well if you really enjoy your work, if you're really looking forward to it each day. It's the same thing with relationships. Right? You're looking forward to being with your partner. You're really, really, really looking forward to going and hanging out with your friends who really enrich you and don't really, strangle you. Yeah, you're really looking forward to being, going and meeting your family, which is not a toxic experience, but a highly enriching one. Now, that means you're extremely rich spiritually within that realm, within that spectra of life. It's the same with sleep, actually. Even though I have quite a few nightmares, I really look forward to my sleep because I feel extremely rich at that time. Because my Mercury is in the 12th, along with Pluto in Scorpio. So when I go down and onto my bed, I've got myself a beautiful, cushiony bed, which I really enjoy just diving into. And yeah, why I do say that is that when I sleep, I feel really spiritually rich. I feel rich. I feel energized. I feel like I am enjoying every moment of it. That is richness. If you're able to do that with your sleep, you are feeling spiritually rich in the realm, in the spectra of sleep. Now just copy paste this in whatever else you wanna copy paste it into. Maybe maybe you feel that when you travel, feeling extremely rich every time you get to travel, and you're just looking forward to that. But bear in mind, it shouldn't be an escape. It shouldn't be like, oh, I'm working and now I'm going to be traveling, because it's an escape from work. That means it's not exactly richness, but it's something else. It's a kind of polarity of putting stress in an area in order to achieve something else. There is a technique to it, but if you are doing it in the correct way, you wouldn't feel it as such. So hence, I'd like to stop it at that point. Now, let's come on to the material plane. Now, in the material plane, as we discussed, and as we all probably know, that money is the measurement on earth as a form of measuring currency, if you will, or measuring measure. I don't know if that is even a term, but yeah, money is what is used in the material plane to solidify the things that you had deeply desired when you were in the spirit realm. The actual, I would say, lack of being able to see them as a continuity is just because how long it takes. It takes a really long time for things that you worked on in the spirit to then manifest and be in front of you in the material plane. So what happens is this time, or this development phase, is long enough that we tend to lose track of that. Oh, I had actually worked on this in the spirit realm. It's just that it was so long back that generally we tend to lose the connection. But there is one. There is a connection, and so anything that you are feeling abundant in terms of money, that is solidified in the material plane. Say, for example, you are using that for your self comforts. You are maybe using money as a way, the money that you've already accumulated, as a way to buy freedom. That means not have to work anymore every day in the material plane. That is not have to go to a job or whatever is your spectrum of work. Or you're maybe using money, which is the measure of richness in the material plane, as a way of building a solid foundation on which you and your relationships, whether it's with your family, your partner, or your friends, or your pets, and you're able to enjoy that relationship. You're able to enjoy the spiritual satisfactory nature of your relationship in a more abundant way, with a foundation in the material plane. Say, for example, you have a very beautiful relationship going on with your partner. Now, if you're rich in the spiritual realm, most likely it's going to translate into the material as well if you do it properly. But this does happen sometimes, that you're in that phase of life where you have a beautiful relationship going, but you're not able to express that fully, because on the material plane you do not find the abundance to be able to go and enjoy that beauty of your relationship to its fullest in the material plane. Maybe You love each other so much that you feel it all the time, which is great, but you're not able to express it in the terms of going out on beautiful vacations or being able to be in spaces where you're not disturbed by anybody and you're able to enjoy. You're able to share beautiful activities together, which you both enjoy. And well, there are creative ways around it, but I'd still like to say that if you're not abundant in the material plane at that time, you are not able to, have a foundation to express these relationships that you have. So, on the material plane, yes, money does form the way in which things get measured. So, now in order to form a balance between these two planes, that is the material and the spiritual, the way to do it is to loop it. Now, what does that mean? As I mentioned, satisfaction, right? So, satisfaction is the measure in the spiritual plane. When you are able to find any form of satisfaction in your life, even in the smallest of degrees, if it's just that you really are finding that sweet spot while you're having your morning coffee, which I do. Yes, if you're able to find that sweet spot there, that is already satisfaction. Now you just got to build on top of that. Now you got to, or if it's in your work, it's in your relationship, anything, right? It's in sleep, it can be in any realm. You just got to build on top of that till the point that it crystallizes and becomes material abundance. So, satisfaction in your spiritual realm, you keep working on it, you loop it, keep working on it, you keep working on it. How do you work on it? You enjoy more of it. By enjoying more of it, you're inviting more of it. You're inviting more of it. What's happening? The spiritual plane, which is generally spirit, right? It's spirit. That means it moves very fast. It's visceral. It's there in a moment and it's not there the next moment. When you're enjoying more and more of it, what's happening is that this fast moving realm is getting heavier and heavier because you're inviting more and more of it. You're expecting it to produce more of that for you because you're enjoying it so much. Now this slowly starts to get heavier and this movement starts to get slower. And as this happens, it starts to get more denser. And as it starts to get more denser, slowly beginning to crystallize in a way that it's stabilizing. Once it's stabilizing, this is spirituality crystallized into materialism. The same thing can be understood in the water cycle that we have on Earth. When you have the rivers, or you have, for example, the oceans as well, they are the material manifestations of H2O, water, right? Now, when they get heated up and when they evaporate, they are going from the material realm to the spiritual realm. When the water goes up to the clouds, it's going to the spiritual realm. And in the clouds, it's in the spirit realm. Now, the heavier that the clouds get, the more. What does it actually mean? The clouds are getting heavy. It means that they are so poignant and so full of need to rain down and come back to the material plane because they enjoy being there so much, because they enjoy this so much. They enjoy the earthly life so much. They enjoy providing life to all these organisms on earth so much. That's what water does, right? It enjoys that act of deeply nourishing every being that's there on this planet, which kind of looks up to it. All of us look up to water to come and nourish us, to come and quench our thirsts. And it's not just humans, it's so many different living beings. So when this expectation is being put up on the realm of the spirit in the cloud's getting heavier and heavier because it is being expected to produce more and more of that same thing. So when the water vapor is in the realm of spirit in the clouds, it's being expected to come down again. It's being expected to transfer itself into the material realm from the spiritual realm. As the clouds get heavier and heavier and heavier, there finally comes the point where they have to rain down, and rain comes down and brings abundance to all life forms on earth. And the joy that the life forms show in terms of gratitude, in terms of the dancing, you can see animals, farmers, whatever you want to call it. So many beings that get so happy when it rains. It smells so nice. The earth is so alive. And all this positive feedback comes up to the clouds. It's received in a way that spirituality becomes encouraged to convert constantly into material realities. And every time the water evaporates again, that means that every time, now coming to our example, every time your satisfaction in your workspace or in your relationships, every time you feel that something's evaporating, that it's not as good as what it used to be, if you're working this loop very well, it generally means that it's going up into the spirit realm again, so that it can come and pour and rain down on you as abundance in the material realm, in your whatever sphere of life you're expecting that in. Either relation as the same thing. I'm just saying the same thing. Yeah, relationships, work, etc. Whatever it is that you want them in. So this is the loop that you need to tap into. So I would go ahead on a limb and say there is no balance between material and spiritual plane. There is a loop in it. There's a cycling of it. And that is what is important to tap onto. Now, for example, like mm, in the opposite way of it, now this is when I put it from the spiritual to the material. Now, when you're going from the material to the spiritual, because there are a lot of people who are on the other side of the spectrum, right? Who have found material abundance but are not able to tap into satisfaction. They feel like no matter how much they make on the material realm, it's not able to satisfy them. I'm sure you've heard these stories, and it's quite true. What has happened is that the material plane has been generally hoarded upon to a point where the spirituality is kind of evaporated and you're still holding on to it. That is generally when this kind of stuff happens, is that you are still holding on to the end result, and the spirit's kind of evaporated. It is best to wait, because it's best to recognize that this loop is going to keep happening. So it's best to kind of wait at that time. But if you are in that space, it's most likely just a shift of perspective that you do need to do. It's a big shift, but it is a very profound one. So say you're in the material realm, it's you just need to shift yourself into saying that uh, you are not going to be working for money as the final product, but you're going to work to give birth to the satisfaction that work brings to your life. Does that make sense? You're not going to work for the final product, that is the money. Money is going to come anyways if you're working. You're building something. You're building something worthwhile sharing with others. So you just need to have a shift that you're not going to be working for money, but you need to work to birth, to give rise to the satisfactory feeling of work, which is there inside of you, which means that which is there in the cloud realm, which is there in the spirit realm, which is what your soul is connected to. So you're kind of working towards, again, tapping into the water cycle. The same thing with relationships. You are going to tell yourself you're not going to work towards pleasing your partner, because that is the byproduct. That's the final result, that your partner gets pleased because of your actions, and there is joy and abundance reflected from your partner's face, expressions, and actions which enrich you. That's the final product. So you got to say that you're not working towards that, but you're going to work to birth, to give birth to the relationship itself, which is inside of you. Any relationship with you are on the outside with another human being is already actually inside of you, and the realm of blueprint. It's like a blueprint. It's already there inside of you. That is what it means that every water body that you see was already there in a certain cloud or in a certain set of clouds before it actually manifested on the earth, right? Even if all, yeah, I mean, you might have seen sometimes that there are some dried lakes, right? So when you're seeing a dried lake, it generally means that right now it exists in the water in that lake exists in an idea realm. It exists in the realm of the spirit. It exists in the realm of imagination in terms of the cloud. It's there inside the cloud. It's going to come back again because it once was. That's why it's called a dried lake. It's used in past tense. That means it once was full. Now it's dry. It's going to come back again if you are tapping into the cycle very well. So, in terms of relationships as well, you've got to tell yourself you're not working towards the final product that is pleasing the partner. You're going to work towards giving birth to the relationship itself, which you have inside of you with this beautiful partner you have in front of you. So when you're meditating on it, you're kind of tapping into this cycle once again. So the dried lake is not seen as dried anymore. It is seen as it once was abundant, it's going to be abundant again. This is an interim period where I need to work on the realm of the spirit to make sure that the relationship is nurtured and is kind of on track again, if you will. And yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about it. Now, I'd also like to add an example, like how I kind of do it. Like I've got a certain system in which I maintain this loop. So I'll give you this example, like the way I do it, and I'm sure maybe this might instigate something in you and be like, oh, I do it too. Yeah. And that's probably all you need. You just need a little bit of instigation to realize that, there are certain parts of it which you do it yourself as well. So now this is the cycle that I follow, that I kind of wrote down before we're doing this video. So yeah, the cycle goes like this. It's spirit, which is being enhanced by meditation. Now that meditation was, now I'll have to go to in the past tense because not all these things happen at the same time. These things were different parts of my life which I devoted specific energy towards. Okay, so once I was in spirit, and then I really started meditating. I really started meditating quite a bit. And when I started meditating quite a bit, the reason I was meditating so much was that the initial spirit realm I was in was not a satisfactory one. I was really searching for answers. I really, really, really needed answers. That's why I was in a very deep spiritual quest for quite a long time. So when the next day, I'm looping it. So when I started meditating, I realized I came across sound as my medium. So I came across the very seed from which I can find spiritual and material satisfaction. I came across sound to be the very seed in my soul. It is actually even deeper than the soul. It goes much, much, much deeper. It goes up to the ninth dimension. So I figured out sound there. At that point, I found this thing inside of me. I'm like, I'm one with all the sound that ever was, that ever will be. By sound, I also mean silence. Silence is just an absence of noise, it's just an absence of frequencies. So when I say sound, I mean made sound and sound which is not made at all. That is silence. And silence and sound come together. You have a molecule, which is sound, which is able to be quiet and also able to be manifested in the realm of sound. So when I developed this even more, because I was just so happy with it, I was just so happy with the richness that it was giving me in the spirit realm. It slowly manifested into music. That is when I went crazy and started my music education and kind of studied everything there was under the sun for that. And as I was doing that, I was developing like what an entrepreneur would develop a business, that they have an idea and then they're putting in so many hours of entrepreneurial energy. That means self-generated energy. Nobody from the outside wants you to do it. You are doing it because you love it that much and you believe in it that much. So that's the amount of energy I kind of put into it, into the music education, so that I developed it to a point where it started propagating. And it started propagating in a way that it started extending itself even more. And the more that it started extending itself, I realized that what I'm creating is quite massive and is way beyond one lifetime's work. And I realized that that seed which I found inside is an absolute gem. It's here to completely transform my being. So I realized that I need to now stabilize this, have a system going in a way that this is something I can keep doing for generations and generations, because that's how much I love it. That's how much in love I am with it. That's how much in love with the process I am. So now it started to extend itself. Now you can see that the cloud's already getting heavy in this process. All of you are going to have a process. If you just self introspect a bit, ask yourself about your journey of life. You all have it. Everybody has it. Everybody's got a process that has this spirit to material transformation. You just need to think about it a little bit. So then it extended. It extended to a point of where it became personal branding. It started being called as personal branding. What does that mean? For the music to propagate and come onto the world. Once it was sound, before that it was meditation, before that it was spirit. For all of that to come onto the world, it needs a brand, it needs a face, it needs a personality, and it needs certain things that somebody stands by, for which people recognize, relate with, and then the music can be fed, and the music that is created can be fed to the ones who are resonating. So then came the idea of personal branding. Now, this personal branding led to additional support from the external world. Now, the external world has taken a long time to come, as you can see in this process, if you look at it. That is when came along the high ticket offers that I currently associate with, that I collaborate with, that I'm intertwined with. Now, these are the offers or products which are related to water again, and they come in the back line of this whole journey of the spirit. They come in a level of material intertwining in a way that the material abundance that they bring is able to inject into the existing spiritual work satisfaction which I have. I'm having to call this work, but it's actually a complete life of satisfaction which I have, which originated from sound. I'm having to call it work because we're in the earth realm, and some things are just called that. You can't, you can't kind of escape that. So yes, so this abundance which is being brought in the material realm, is coming in from the offers that I'm working with, are intertwining and injecting into that which I created in the spirit. And they are becoming the structure on which the sound, which became music, can express itself freely. And now, this so-called product is again associated with water, which is a water. It's basically a water ionizer. So it's a creator of refinement of water. It's a creator of a certain level of distillment, which is bringing the drinkers, the humanity itself of the future, to a point where we are raising the bar in terms of what our bodies are consuming. in terms of what our bodies are intaking, in terms of I'm sorry, in terms of getting rid of all the unconscious trash that we generally tend to accept inside of ourselves. Because yeah, when you're in an unconscious cycle, you tend to eat unconsciously as well, right? Diet gets affected as well. So yeah, so this is kind of in line with a vision of consuming something which is more conscious, consuming something which is a more refined state of Earth's biggest resource, that is water. So now that I've gotten associated with this is becoming the perfect web or structure for all of that spiritual cloud which is condensed for now to it to come and materialize. Now this, what I just spoke about, is very much similar to the example of a crevice in the earth. If you are to remove the waters of the oceans, you would realize that let's not get to the oceans. If you are to remove the water in a lake, as we spoke about the deserted lake, right, there will be a crevice, that is, there'll be an empty space. Now, this empty space is the perfect container for that water to rain, for the clouds to, I'm sorry, for the clouds to rain and for the water to get filled, right? And as this water gets filled, it's able to project its abundance. It's able to project and feed all, quench the thirst of all the beings that come to drink from it. It's the same thing here. This material plane is where I'm building a structure on which my spiritual satisfaction and richness can come down and express itself in the material plane. My music now has a very strong structure to go ahead and become a show, a self-generated show of mine, which is what I'm aiming towards. A music studio, a much bigger one, a much more profound one, a much more in detailed one, which is what I'm going towards. So this is becoming the structure on which all my spiritual richness can come into material existence. Now, this is the way I am balancing it. Now, when you are creating anything, the number one thing you need to realize is, other than creating, you need to constantly be excreting. You need to constantly be giving back. Excretion, not in a derogatory or a bad sense, but in a way of giving back, because you want to keep the loop going. As I said, we're not looking at balance exactly, we're looking at looping. We're looking at the looping of spirit to material, material to spirit. So there has to be a way in which I and you are giving back something that is letting you become unburdened as well. So, what am I doing in that? I recycle the spirit that I have acquired, the spiritual knowledge, you can say, or the spiritual satisfaction, or the richness which I have acquired through my quest and my meditation, and I give that back in free astrology. Now, why astrology? Because it's the perfect matrix in which I am able to inject all the spiritual knowledge and the wisdom that I have. I'm able to inject that because if you might have seen my first video about why I do astrology for free, or like how music and astrology are related, are innately the same. They have the same substructure. So when I am giving out astrology, what it's making room for, it's making room for my spiritual mind to inject more of music into it. So the more I eject through the spiritual knowledge, giving it out for free in helping people with their astrology charts, I am able to inject more of what I want that spirit to be. I want my very spirit to be plagued by sound, by music. If there's anything else, I want to I don't want to say rid of it, but give it away for the ones who are looking for it. So that's a kind of system I follow. This is the way I make sure that my cycling is constantly going on. And also, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, I guess, with teaching or something. Yeah, right. I like to teach for free as well, quite a bit. So or consultations. Yeah, I generally, like, when I do that, I don't, I never feel like charging. Is just this is actually the reason, because I feel like it's whatever I don't need is being excreted, and that is something somebody else needs. So I don't see money as an equivalent to it at that time. I see it like the space it's creating inside me is where I can now start to inject my music. It can be extremely deep and profound experience, and it can, I can build exactly what I want if I eject exactly that which I do not want. So this whole looping system between spirit and material, this is the way I manage it inside of my being. And you can as well. Like, I'm sure as I'm speaking, it's probably ringing bells in you because you probably are already doing it. There are maybe one or two layers which are astray, but I'm sure you're doing a lot of this yourself in your own ways. And it's already ringing bells. So this is kind of the way I kind of doing it. Uh, I think the other thing which I just wanted to touch upon before we end this is that to not get into the polarity again between the spirit and the material. Do not polarize them, because they are not to be polarized. They are the left wheel and the right wheel, right, left and the right pedal of your cycle. It's just a cycling. Yeah, are not supposed to polarize them. You're supposed to just fall into their rhythm and get into this beautiful cycling motion. And when you're falling into that, you're kind of falling into the wheel of life itself. You're falling into the wheel of life, which is balance. The wheel of life itself is harmony. The wheel of life itself is surrender. And the wheel of life itself has an intricate balance, has an intricate degree of satisfaction by just being truly itself. So that's what I have for you guys today. Feel free to get in touch with me and learn about what I do. You can check out my music on my music website. You can check out the high ticket offer, which I speak about, which I'm associated with, how I help creative entrepreneurs fuel their passions with that, and stay on track with what they're here on earth to do. So if you want to book a call for that, it'll be an astrology infused session. Your personal chart would be analyzed, and we would come up with a beautiful way in which we could cater that to your specific needs. So without further ado, I think it's already quite late, and I should most probably shut up and see you in the next episode. Till then, bye for now.